it's Maryanne. Welcome to another episode of the Influential Nonprofit. Boy, am I jazzed to talk to you about this stuff because this is juicy and this is good. And I swear you will be a different person at the end of this podcast than you are right now. And you will have a much different way, a more productive, meaningful, insightful way of looking at issues and problems than you did when you started this. And I absolutely promise that. What we're going to talk about is moving beyond the decision-making in the polarity. It's either this or this into like both or and thinking. So instead of either or, it's both and. So I want to talk to you about why this is important, what it is, and then how you can incorporate this into your life. First, I'm going to start with a teeny little story because this is real world stuff. Okay. What I do and what you learn from me has very practical, meaningful, purposeful applications. That's why I like to start with the story. Client, love her, love the work we're doing, training the board. Couple of guys on the board are like, they're not really liking this training, which is teaching them how to do outreach into the community in a way that feels good and positive. They don't have to ask for money. All they have to do is connect with people. And I thought it was going really well. But there's a small minority of people who aren't liking it. And they want to, I don't understand why we're doing this. I want to do and so the ED came to me and said, hey, Maryanne, instead of training with the board, because we've got a couple of people who aren't that engaged in it, maybe you could just work with me and my team use those hours or use that, for coaching and training. And I said, okay, so now we're looking at this in the polarity. It's either board or staff. My board does it or my staff does it. Okay, what is the influential way? What is that third way where everyone wins, where we're coming from our decision-making from a higher power and a higher purpose? What does that look like? And I said, let's think about this. Are there board members who really love this? Yes, I know there are because I do the training. I see them. They really love it. Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of them. Would they want to continue? Absolutely. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take the people who are interested in it, who really want to learn, and we'll train them. And I'm happy to even spend more time with them to help them learn really how to do the system so they can feel comfortable in it and then start using it. And then hopefully, one day then bring everybody else along. She's like, I hadn't even thought about that. Just right. And you know what? And that's pretty typical because most of us live in the polarity. We live in the polarity. It's either this or that. Is she mean or nice? Is she good or bad? Is that a good person or a bad person? Well, they were nice to me, so they're nice. Well, they were mean to me, so they're mean. We think in polarities: rich, poor, black, white, left, right. And especially on social media is designed to pull those polarities apart even more. So of course we have polarity thinking. It's very common, but when we do, what happens is we stay bound to that. We can only see 2 solutions. It's this or that. And we don't see or open ourselves up to the possibilities beyond that into what I call, the influential third, right? The influential way. What would be the influential way? What is the third way? I'm not thinking as a leader of influence. I can create a solution where we don't have to go to this or this, where somebody wins and somebody loses. It's this way now. What would happen if everybody won? What would happen? What does the third way look like? Coming from that place of higher power and higher thinking. Now, let's talk about the polarity a little bit more, because I want you to think about right now, I want you to think about things in your life that you feel tension around. That could be like work and rest, money, abundance and scarcity. I go through that too. Like, oh my God, I don't have any money. Oh my God, I have so much money. Like, I don't, productivity and not confuse the word productivity and I would say like rest or calm or break, so we have all these tensions in our life. And by the way, if you're seeing me speak this, I have an iPad and 2 notebooks here. If you're listening, if I hesitate for a second, that's because I am looking for a note. So I have a bunch of polarity things written out, but I want you to think of things in your life, or maybe as I'm speaking these examples, some come to you. I talk a lot about praise and criticism. That's polarity. It's either praise or criticism, peace or conflict, structure or flexibility, um, stability or change, accountability or trust, selfishness or selflessness, scarcity, abundance, responsibility, freedom. In our world, we're always faced with a polarity. So here's what's interesting about the polarity. If you remember when I talk about peace and conflict, when I'm putting peace on a pedestal, I'm actually creating conflict because I'm pulling that polarity farther and farther apart. I'm sacrificing a lot for peace. I'm not speaking up. I'm swallowing opinions. I'm subverting things, whatever, because I'm letting people push me around or whatever, because I want peace. But what happens is eventually that polarity breaks and that peace is going to come toppling down and would create a tremendous amount of conflict. And or like, let's say in structure, there's structure, and then there's chaos. I'm going to call it chaos. So when I have a lot of structure and I'm pulling that structure, I need structure. What happens is I'm actually creating chaos, because if one little thing goes off with the structure that I've created, there's chaos. And I'm actually creating, by needing so much structure, I'm actually creating chaos. Whoa, what? Like, you know how love can be hate, hate can be love, because they pull apart so far, they almost collapse on themselves and they become the same thing. Because we cannot have joy without pain. We cannot have light without dark. Polarities exist for a reason. The North Pole or the South Pole. It's the energetic balance of the world. And we can't fight the polarity. We can only learn to move past it or to see beyond it. And and so in a sense of, we can't have joy without pain, right? We can't have love without hate. And then in a sense, then if we love so much, sometimes it creates hate, then those things sort of collapse on themselves and it just becomes one big thing. So there really isn't joy or pain. It just is. It's just how we move through the world. I'm getting kind of deep here, so I'm gonna pause for a second and let your mind kind of let the wheels turn or the steam come out of your ears or whatever it needs to do. So when we pull the polarities apart, they often collapse on each other. And if I'm terrified of criticism, if I'm overly dependent on praise, and what I'm creating is more criticism, because anything that somebody says is going to sting me hard. And therefore, I'm actually creating more criticism. Now the polarity is collapsing on itself. And what I want is balance, right? I talk about praise and criticism. That's what my book's about, like navigating praise and criticism. Because if you're saying something interesting, somebody's not going to like it. And that's just the price of doing good work in the world and standing up for your beliefs. But we look at the binary, like, oh, we can either have praise or criticism. We don't embrace both. But in the influential way, in that third way, if you look at it like the polarity is a line, and then we create a triangle from that line, that third way, that top point, that's where we can embrace both joy and pain, both peace and conflict, both praise and criticism, both accountability and trust. What would it look like to have both accountability and trust? What would that look like? What if we made decisions based from that space? And we look at it like, what if the board and staff, what if it wasn't board and staff, but we did it together? What would that look like? What if everybody could win? The people who didn't want to do my training didn't have to do my training. The people who wanted to do my training were like, yay, they even get more of me. And then the staff gets extra coaching and gets really, really engaged board members who really actually want to do this program. Win, 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 right? And over time, a chance to enhance the culture and make this sort of standard issue for what the board does. Instead of one person winning and one person losing, or in this case, one entity, board versus staff, everybody wins. Oh my God, why wouldn't you want to come up with solutions where everybody wins? So when we move past the polarity and we move past being trapped in that binary, we think, what if there's a way where everyone wins? where we could have the best of both worlds. And in this influential way, we're really coming from this higher purpose, this higher level of thinking. So let's go through some more examples, okay? Of um accountability and trust. What would it look like to have both those things? So maybe trust is maybe it looks like this. I trust people are getting their day-to-day work done, but we're creating key performance indicators that we review every month or every week to create accountability. Both those things can live together. I don't have to have one or the other. But if I do the KPIs, does that look like I don't trust them? But if I trust, it's always a yes and, and imagine the excitement or the possibilities can come through. Let's take it down a little bit more personally. Selfish and selfless, or narcissist and enabler. Like that is a binary, right? If you have somebody who's narcissistic, means they think only of themselves. Then you have somebody who seems like an enabler, like they're always doing for others. And I'm always doing for myself, or I'm always doing for others. That person that's always doing for others can actually be narcissistic tendency, because, and hang with me here, it gives them significance to do for others, even if it's to the detriment of others, right? Even if I know it'd be better for you to solve this problem yourself, but I'm going to solve it for you because it meets my need. Most of the time, people who are selfless aren't exactly selfless. They have a very deep need, right? A deep need inside them, that an ego or significance to solve problems or be important to other people. In a sense, that's a selfish act. So there's no thing. It's just like selfish or selfless. It's all everything. A selfish person that only acts for themselves can also allow other people to grow, because they're not solving your problems. They're not up in your business. So in a sense, my point is we're all the things at all the time. We only acknowledge the things that we want to see, or we only believe that only one part of it can be true. It's either abundance or scarcity. We don't want to think scarcity, but let's think about that. Like scarcity, like my mom was a Depression era. My mom was born in 1927. My dad was born in 25. I think I got that right. And my mom, grew up during the Depression and World War II. This woman could stretch $1. Like, oh my gosh. When I did this retreat a couple weeks ago, we were talking about what did our parents teach us about money? And I'm laughing so hard because, my mom could stretch $1. And in scarcity comes creative thinking, scarcity of time, scarcity of money, scarcity of resources. Sometimes your best ideas come up is because you only have an hour and $1,000, and all of a sudden these really cool possibilities emerge. So we don't want to turn off scarcity thinking. Sometimes that can really serve us, but not to the sacrifice of abundant thinking, which is we have all the time we need. We have all the money we need. We have all the resources we need. It's all there for us. It's just a matter of accessing it. Both those things are true in a sense of like the scarcity creates abundance. And then sometimes abundance can create scarcity, because it's all the same thing. It's just the labels that we give to the experiences that are happening to us. And that's all true. So in the influential way, in being an influential leader, that you can see past the binary, you can see past the polarity and hold two truths at the same time. You can stop your mind from going back and forth. Like, am I good or am I bad? Am I confident or am I insecure? Am I a good speaker or a bad speaker? Am I this or am I that? Do they like me? Don't they like me? It's all the things. It's all the things. And anytime my mind starts to go to that, I'm like, whoop, coming back to center, because I'm all the things. I'm all the things. And we spend a lot of our monkey mind just bouncing around in our brain, wrestling with these ideas. And like I say, we're all of those things. Sometimes I'm incredibly kind. Sometimes I'm not. Guy at the UPS store last week when I was returning an Amazon package, like I was about 5 seconds from Karening out, and like and I'm also the most patient, kind person ever. And both of those things are true. And so, and then now from that position of that influential way, the third way, I can look and say, okay, what if there was abundance and scarcity? What if it was mean and nice? What would that look like? What if there was, board and staff? There's all kinds of ways of looking beyond the polarity. In my own personal life, we're looking beyond the polarity of gender identity. My oldest kid is trans. And we were like, there's men and there's women, there's boys and there's girls. Actually, there's if you're open to it, a whole nother way of experiencing gender, which is what my oldest is doing. And that's really who she is and how she feels. And so by it was not hard for me to, actually it was a relief when she came out. That's a whole nother podcast for another day. It was kind of a relief when she came out because she was struggling with a lot. Now, oh, okay, now we get what's going on. But we were able to see, okay, there's a third way, and we don't necessarily have to understand it. I just had to accept that it was her truth. That was her truth, that there was maybe another way. So coming from that influential way, that third way, I can now see possibilities and solutions that I never even thought existed before. And one of the biggest questions you can ask yourself is this a problem, or is this a polarity or a paradox we're going to learn to manage? And I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to say it better this time. Is it a problem to solve, or a paradox or polarity we must manage well? Because most of the things in your life, I believe, are paradoxes or polarities that you just learn to manage well. I had a meeting with a client yesterday. Again, another beautiful meeting, but one of the things we were working on sponsorships, helping her generate more sponsorships. She says, Maryanne, this is a nut I can't crack. And I said, okay, is this a problem we're looking to solve, or a paradox or polarity that we're going to learn to manage well? And in this case, it's not a problem to solve. This is something we're going to learn to manage well. Sometimes sponsors come easy. Sometimes you do a little more legwork and more digging. And it's not, oh, can we find out the way that makes it always easy? No. That's really, no, there's no magic wand. But because remember, you don't get to say who or when, right? Like if you follow me, you know that you don't get to say who or when. And in that sense of like, no, this is just a paradox we manage. And once I stop searching for the solution that's not there anyway, I can now deal with what's in front of me instead of wishing for it to go away, which is what they wanted in the first place, right? Make this pain go away, make the sponsorship pain go away, make it easy. What if instead of making it easy, which is a problem that's not a problem we can solve, but what we can do is accept that there's a paradox. And what's the third way? What is the way where everyone wins? And we talked about what does that approach look like, and where everyone wins. But the first part of that is just accepting and allowing for sponsorship to be what it's going to be every year, which is probably pretty different. Are there things we can systemize? Sure. But this is not a magic wand. It's not a problem that can be solved. Somebody left, somebody new is going to come in. That's a problem to solve. Hiring somebody, problem to solve. Donor acquisition, that's a paradox or polarity to manage over time. So my husband runs a biotech startup, and somebody said, oh, you need a kind of a CFO person. And my husband's like, yeah, it's not really time for that. I don't really think that's they're into research. Anyway, somebody brought up a problem. Like they think this is a problem that needs to be solved, which is managing the money. Okay. And the solution was to hire somebody, where my husband, without using these words, I gave him this language, which is, no, that's a paradox or polarity that we will learn to manage well, which is the money and how it's being spent. And right. Because that's just that, because it's going to fluctuate and change as the company grows and the research grows into product, which grows into all kinds of other things, which I don't know because I don't run a biotech startup, but I think you get the gist. A lot of times people come to us and they're like, here's the problem to be solved. Board engagement, that's not a problem that can be solved. That's a paradox or a polarity that needs to be managed well, which is engaged, disengaged, right? Oh, they're engaged, like, oh, which are they? They're all of them. So maybe engaged at sometimes, not at others. And it's all the things at all the time. So we don't have to say, okay, what is the thing I'm not thinking of? What would it look like to be engaged and disengaged, right? What would it look like to up your level of commitment and also up your level of allowing and trust? And have that both be true. So yes, I want my board to be engaged at a higher level, and also I want them to let go of some things and trust a little more. And both those things can be true at the same time. And we have to believe that third way, that influential way, exists. And once we do, then we can find the solutions for it. And I'm going to tell you that once you open up your mind to this, there's going to be solutions around you that you never even saw or thought possible. So I think about, in your life, in your work, what are the things that are pulling at you that you feel trapped between? Is is a staffing issue, of trust and accountability? Is it all of those things that you feel bound to? And then let's say, okay, what's the third way? Somebody said, I like it when my employees show up at this time every day, and you come here and this is what it is. They're living in the polarity, like, because the way that you show trust is this one way: show up on time. Everything you do after that is considered less worthwhile, because so then there's the other polarity, is like, hey, it's really flexible, it's really loose. What would be a way that everyone wins in that situation, because where all contributions are valued no matter when they happen, right? And also there's structures and things that are set in place. But when we are trapped in the binary, that's when the solutions are limited. And often we see the contributions of the gifts of others through that binary. So we value when people are structured, but aren't valued when they're creative and free thinking. And so now we're missing out on some really good stuff. And in your own life, in your own world, when you this is why I say there's no such thing as personal growth and professional growth, or like personal, like, oh, it's my personal work and it's all the same thing. How you show up one place is how you show up every place, because there's really no distinction. It's how you show up, and in your ability to navigate one situation is going to, don't you think that's going to play in your ability to handle other situations inside or outside of work? It's all the same. So when we pull at that binary, we pull at that polarity. I'm like this at work or this at home. So I have a friend, and she is a board member, and he's like the business guy during board meetings, and and then she hears this story about him, and he was like being so crazy and fun, and she's like, whoa, that dude. I'm like, that guy lives in the polarity. He's either business guy or fun guy, and she's like, hey, that fun guy could come to the board meeting. He's like, what? Because he's living in a polarity. So he shows this part of himself to these people and this part of himself to this people. Why are you hiding half your light? Bring it all with you. One of the reasons I'm as successful as I am, and why I draw people to me, and I'm just saying it like it is because I am honest, vulnerable, and I bring everything I am to every situation. My confidence, my vulnerability. The other day I did a keynote and I couldn't get on the stage. The step was a little too high, and I have like 6-inch platform boots, and I literally tripped and I dropped all my stuff. And I'm like, and my talk was about authenticity. And I'm like, well, I'm authentic now because I couldn't get on the stage. Like halfway through, they wheel in these steps, like, re. And then I walked down and walked up, and everybody cheered, and it was really cute. I'm bringing my whole self, like, oh, well, so next time I do a keynote, I will making sure I can get up on the steps, because there is no handrail, there's nothing in it anyway. But I'm bringing my full self. I'm bringing all of it. And so when you're bringing all of it, and when you're allowing everyone around you to bring all of it, they're good, they're bad, their structure, their freedom, their feelings, their facts, all of it, then you have all the information, and then all the possibilities emerge, right? So remember, when we pull at that polarity, it's eventually going to collapse on itself. And what was good will be bad, was bad will be good. Or love, hate, joy, pain, and that's why we laugh at funerals, right? Because it's joy, pain, it's all intertwined. Some of the times I've laughed the hardest was when I'm in the most pain. A couple of years ago, we do these retreats with my coach, and it gets really heavy. Like we call it going to the basement. And then one night we wound up staying up and just laughing and talking all night. And I hadn't laughed so hard. And I just thought, yeah, like, because I allowed myself to really feel some things and, like, what we call, quote unquote, go to the basement, then I'm having fun. When you work hard, and then you allow for play, you allow for all of it, then you're allowing people to bring their full self. You're allowed to bring your full self into the situation. And then that's that. And then the third way emerges. And then everybody wins. And that's what influential leaders do. They find a way to make everyone win. How can we all benefit? What would it look like not to have to pick a winner or a loser, but to have all of us win? That's what influential leaders do. And let me tell you, when you look at the influential way, that third way beyond the polarity, we have complex issues and problems facing us, you do as an organization, we do as an industry, we do as a country, as a community, as a culture, right? There's so much around us. And our ability to navigate complex situations like this by seeing beyond the binary, beyond the polarity, to the third way is key to getting our best work done, having the meaningful conversations that move our most important work. It allows us to have higher level conversations with donors, higher level conversations with community partners, with our board, because we understand that we don't have to have it a this or that. We can have a both and. So allow that to sink in, allow that to marinate in you. I would love to hear how this resonates with you, Maryanne at courageouscommunication.com. And if you're interested in working with me and being a part of my Uplevel Your Influence course, we start in February. I am looking for participants who really want to show up and be the most influential leader they can be, which means you can easily enroll people in a vision and have people choose, like, because they want to do what you want them to, not because they have to or they must, because they get to, they choose to, they're excited to. And one of the key characteristics of being an influential leader is the influential way, seeing that third way, seeing beyond the polarity. I'm actually going to do a series on characteristics of an influential leader. I'm just going to call this the first one because that's how I roll. And all right, so if you're interested, there's a link in the show notes. You can book a little call with me and we can talk about it and see if you're ready or if you're a good fit. And that's it for me on this episode of the Influential Nonprofit. Start seeing that third way and let me know what happens. And I'll see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.